Hello, everyone. This is James Song here. Welcome back to the TOEFL Show. This is episode 17, and we're continuing with TOEFL listening section of the TOEFL test. And following on from the last episode, today we're going to learn how to answer the questions and get every question right for lecture passages of the TOEFL listening. Okay, so obviously passage was a little bit harder than conversation to take notes, and the question may be a little bit harder as well. So let's learn how to answer the questions properly, considering all the question types. Okay, let's do this deep dive. Let's go, guys. Okay, guys, welcome back. Let's continue by solving all these questions together. There will be 6 questions because in TOEFL listening, every lecture passage gives out 6 questions, okay? So let's do that. So I'll teach you how to answer all these questions right. And this episode is following on from last episode. So if you haven't watched episode 16, go back and watch it and come back, or at least go to the episode 16. In the beginning of the episode, there is a lecture listening passage. So listen to that. And then if you watch this episode, then it will make, it will make sense for you. All right. So I have my notes on my right from last episode and questions on my left. So let's go. Question number 1. What is the lecture mainly about? So this is called gist content question in TOEFL listening. So this is the name of the question type, fancy name. It's basically asking for main idea or main topic of the passage, okay? Because gist means like main or essence, okay? So obviously, if you watch the last episode, look at the notes, okay? This passage is about displacement activity because in the first paragraph, it defines what displacement activity is, which is when animal does some action that is completely out of place and irrelevant to the situation. And why does this happen? When animals face 2 conflicting drives. All right. So in one sentence, displacement activity is when animal faces 2 conflicting drives. They end up doing something completely irrelevant to the situation. And it continues in the second paragraph. Professor asks students to give another example of displacement activities. And then professor explained this inhibition, which is a process that leads to displacement activity. So we're still talking about displacement activity as a main topic. And then professor asks the class, why so often displacement activities are comfort behaviors? So we keep talking about displacement activities. And then last paragraph, professor explains sometimes these displacement activities are determined by the environment the animal is in. So this whole passage is talking about displacement activity. Okay. So let's find the answer. A, methods of observing unusual animal behavior. So A is many different ways to observe animals' behavior. So A is completely wrong. For A to be the answer, this passage needs to be like, first, you can look at animals' behavior this way. Second, you can look at animals in different way. And third way of looking at animal is this way. So A is completely wrong. B, a theory about ways birds attract mates. I mean, this is not displacement activity. It's way too specific to be the answer, right? because we want displacement activity, but this is irrelevant. It's just wrong. Okay. And it's too specific to be the main idea if you think about it. Okay. All right. C, ways animals behave. Okay. Animals' behaviors when they have conflicting drive. Yeah. This is how they paraphrase. Okay. They're never going to give you displacement activities. That wouldn't be a question. All right. So this comes from our note. Displacement activity is doing something completely irrelevant. And when do they do this? When they have two conflicting drives. So I have all the notes for the perfect answer, right? So C is the perfect answer. And this is a paraphrase of displacement activity. Okay, D, criteria. So like standard, like a measurement of deciding or judging standards for classifying animal behavior. It's way too general. It's a little bit opposite to B in some way. Like the answer we're looking for is displacement activities, but this is it's not only wrong, it's way too broad and general compared to what we're looking for. We're not looking for what are different standards to dividing, classifying animal behaviors. We're talking about one type of animal behaviors, which is displacement activities, right? So this is wrong, and also it's too general, okay, to be the answer for this question. So question number 1, C, and we have the perfect note. So we got the answer from the notes we have taken. Question 1, the answer is C. Next question, please. Okay, guys. Question number 2. Let's continue. Indicate whether each of the activities below describes displacement activities. So it's asking whether this action is an example of displacement activity or not. Okay. So this question type is called connecting contents. So you would get a table or some kind of chart. Okay. And you need to choose the multiple information, true or false, or right from wrong. All right. Or sometimes you get a question that you need to put in sequence or right order. Like, for example, in the passage talks about some kind of chemical reaction and what's the right order from first to last. So you need to put D happens first, then C, then B, and A. So answer is D, C, B, A, something like that. All right. So that's called connecting contents. And it's not too different from detailed question. It's not too different from true or false question in essence. Okay. So let's see whether these sentences represent displacement activity or not. Okay, first one. An animal attacks the ground instead of its enemy. So this is, what is this, guys? From last class? Redirecting, right? This is not displacement activities, right? So let's double check from our perfect notes, okay? So when professor asks another example to tell me what the displacement activity is, and the male student gives this example of when or if animal is conflicted between fighting the enemy or running away from the enemy. If the animal attacks the plants or ground, isn't this displacement activity? It's not, because it's still attacking. So it's still fighting. So action makes sense. The animal either fought, or ran away. They decided to fight. But only problem is animal did not fight the enemy. Animal fought the plant. Okay. So that's called redirecting. All right. So action is still, fighting or running away. So it makes sense. But the target is wrong. Object is wrong. So this is not displacement activity. Okay. B, animal falls asleep in the middle of mating ritual. Yeah, this is a good question because we need to apply our notes a little bit. We have to think a little bit, right? So when the bird is in the mating ritual, right, it suddenly groomed itself, right? In this example, in professor's example, the bird trains and then go back to the mating ritual. So grooming itself, training is not the most important thing. The bird did something irrelevant. So it could be eating, it could be sleeping, it could be drinking. In this situation, two conflicting drives were keep mating, keep going, or stop mating and running away. But if the bird did not keep going or did not stop, does something else, then that's displacement activity. If the animal does something completely different, then whatever the action is, that's displacement activity. So this is a perfect example. Okay. So in professor's example, it was grooming. But if you remember the female student's example, okay, it was sleeping, right? So it doesn't matter what the action was, as long as if it's completely irrelevant, inappropriate action, not from the conflicting drives, then it's all displacement activities. Okay. All right. C, animal eats some food when confronted by its enemy. Again, we need to understand, like the notes does not give us the answer directly. We have to actually apply our understanding. Okay. So when, according to the context of this listening passage, okay, according to our notes, when animal faces the enemy, what should be the two conflicting drives? Fight the enemy or run away, right? Okay. So if this animal neither fight nor runs away, then it's displacement activity. Okay. So if animal attack or escape, then it's not displacement activity. But if animal does something else, then it's all displacement activities, right? So when you are facing the enemy, you are suddenly eating, you are not fighting or running away. You're doing something completely irrelevant. So this is a good example of displacement activities. Okay, makes sense, right? So question 2, the answers are B, A, A. Next question, please. Okay, next question. Question number 3. What does the professor say about disinhibition? So as I clearly explained to you in the last episode, perhaps this part was the most important, maybe not, but most difficult part of this listening passage, right? And yeah, I was expecting this question 100%. So as you improve, you could even expect what question to be come out as you practice TOEFL listening over and over again. Okay, certainly this was the most difficult part for you to understand completely in this listening passage. So let's have a look at it again thoroughly. So the terminology, disinhibition, comes out here when the female student gives the right example of displacement activity, right? So this inhibition is here, but in order for us to get to here, let's go through this paragraph, okay? Like from the beginning to the end, right? So female students give example of if animal has an object that animal is afraid of is placed next to the food that animal wants to eat, then animal is conflicted, right? Of fear and hunger, right? Fear of this object, but wanting to eat this food. So instead of running away from the food or getting the food, if the animal just falls in sleep, is this displacement activities? Yeah, perfect. It is displacement activity. All right. And then professor continues by explaining this concept of disinhibition. Okay, listen up, guys. This is really important and a little bit difficult, but I'll break it down for you. So listen up. All right. Listen carefully. So when animal is conflicted with two drives, fear and hunger, this actually cancels both action out. So what are two possible actions? Because animal is scared, it will run away from the food. That's first option. Okay. And the second option is because the animal is still hungry, it may still approach the food, although animal is scared because animal is so hungry. Okay. So this conflicting drive actually inhibit these actions from happening. Okay. So because he's hungry, this prevent animal from running away from the food. So you cannot run away from the food because he's hungry. But at the same time, because he's so scared of the object next to the food, he also cannot go near the food. So these two conflicting drive prevents first or second action from happening. It prevents it. Okay. So that's why animal cannot run away from the food, nor cannot approach the food, ends up doing something completely irrelevant. Third drives arise and animal starts sleeping. And this inhibiting two actions, okay, makes third action to happen. And this is displacement activity. So this inhibition means it failed to prevent third action, which is displacement activity from happening. So that's this inhibition to third action. So it failed to prevent displacement activities from happening. Understand? Okay. Right? So that's a process that leads to displacement activity. This inhibition leads to displacement activity. It failed to prevent displacement activity from happening. Okay. All right. So A, it can prevent displacement activities from occurring. This is exactly opposite. Okay. All right. It failed to prevent. This is opposite of the answer. B, it can cause animal to act on more than one drive at a time. Yeah, it's not mentioned. So what this is saying is, if you have two drives, animal can take two actions, not just one. Or if animal has three drives, maybe animal act based on two drives or three drives. So is totally wrong. Okay, completely wrong to what we're looking for. C, it is not useful for explaining many types of displacement activity. I mean, I don't even know what this means. It is not, it is useful for explaining why displacement activity happen. That's the right answer. So not useful is wrong. And also many types of displacement activity. I mean, what does this even mean? I'm confused. Okay. So completely wrong in so many ways. So D should be the answer. Otherwise, I will be in trouble. D, it is responsible. Yeah, it causes. Okay, it is responsible. So this inhibition is creates, causes, is responsible for appearance of seemingly irrelevant behavior. What is this paraphrase of? Displacement activities. Okay, so voila. Okay, so D is saying this inhibition, it is responsible. So this inhibition causes displacement activity to happen, from happening. So it's opposite of A. Okay, so D is a perfect answer. Okay, so 3 is detailed question. The answer is D. Next question, please. Okay, we're moving on. Question number 4, right? According to the lecture, what is one possible reason that displacement activities are often grooming behaviors? Yeah, this is a detailed question. It's a very similar, if not same, as factual question in reading. Okay, so the hint will be explicit and direct from the listening passage. So as I said, if you can find the answer to the detailed questions from your notes exactly, directly, then your notes are improving, or you are writing really good notes. All right. So I remember it was here, wasn't it? Right. Professor asks the class, why displacement activities are often comfort behaviors, such as feeding, drinking, grooming, and sleeping, right? And 2 possible reasons were mentioned, one by male student and another by female student. Remember? Right? And first, male student mentions, okay, here, maybe it's easy to do, okay? And he says, grooming, for example, it's very easy to do. It's accessible. It's there. Animal has stimulus, and also animal is able to do it very easily, right? It's a convenient thing to do and able to do it, accessible, right? And also eating is also very easy to do, maybe because animal doesn't need to think, just take it, right? So that was the male student's opinion, and there was no comment by professor. And when female student says, kind of asking to the professor that, animals groom, maybe because they got messed up. It was pretty funny. Messed up from the fight or from the mating. Isn't that the reason why? And professor says that's another possible reason. That's what professor said. If you listen to the passage again, that's another possible reason, which means what male student says is another possible reason, or original possible reason, or one possible reason. This one. And female student's answer was another possible reason after male student's reason. Okay? So these 2 are possible reasons. All right? So let's look at the answer. All right. Grooming may cause an enemy or predator to be confused. First, it's not mentioned. And if you actually understood this sentence, it's really funny. I mean, to me anyway. It's saying like, if or when animal grooms, touch the feather, the enemy is like getting confused. Oh, what is he doing? Why isn't he attacking me or escaping? Why is he grooming? Okay. Okay. That's what A is saying. Okay. So pretty funny. B, grooming is a convenient and accessible behavior. Bang. In our notes, right? Easy to do, accessible, convenient also was mentioned in the listening passage, I remember. Okay. Easy to do and accessible, right? Perfect notes, perfect answer every time. Okay. Got the answer from right here. C, grooming often occurs before eating and drinking, not mentioned. D, grooming is a common social activity, not mentioned. So very straightforward, this question. Question 4, detailed question. The answer is B. Next question, please. Okay, next question. Question number 5. Why does professor mention wood thrush? Okay, so this is called organization question in TOEFL listening, and it's very similar to rhetorical purpose question in TOEFL reading. Okay, so what is the purpose that professor is mentioning wood thrush? For what purpose? Okay, all right. How is the passage organized? All right, to contrast something, to explain what professor wanted to explain, to point out something. The wood thrush is used as a tool to point out something, or wood thrush is used to give an example of something, right? Okay, so see, very, very similar, if not the same, as a rhetorical purpose in TOEFL reading. All right, so let's solve this question. Why does professor mention the wood thrush? Okay, let's go. So after last question, professor moves on to the next paragraph by saying that sometimes environment influences, decides what kind of displacement activity animal do, right? And gives an example of wood thrush to explain this opinion. Okay, so topic sentence of this paragraph is environment determines animals' behavior. Different environments influence different animals' displacement activities, right? That's a topic sentence. And to explain this, to justify, to say this is right, professor uses wood thrush as an example. So example would be wood thrush would be influenced by the environment when the animals do displacement activity, right? So example was when wood thrush was in two conflicting drives of attacking or escaping from the enemy, wood thrush does displacement activities, but depending on the environment. Okay, when he is on first environment, it's irrelevant behavior, but he does one thing, or she. All right, but when she is or he is in different environment, okay, the animal does completely different displacement activity to the first environment. So wood thrush is used as an example to justify professor's opinion, professor's statement, which said environment decides animals' behavior. Okay. A, to contrast. Yeah, there's no compare and contrast here. It's just one animal doing two different behaviors. So it's already wrong because there's no comparison to be made. But let's read it out. to contrast its displacement activity with those of other animal species. See? All right. So A to be right, need to be another animal species, right? But this never came out. So A is wrong. No contrast, no comparison here. B, to explain that some animals display displacement activities other than grooming. It's not about grooming. And if you look at wood thrush here, certainly is not used to explain they do other than grooming. Okay, that's not the purpose. It's used to justify animals' behaviors depend on the environment. Okay, so B is wrong. C, to point out how displacement activities are influenced by the environment, money, right? Bang. Perfect. Okay. All right. To, it's used as example, but basically to justify, to point out, to show, to prove, okay, how displacement activity that wood thrush did, first displacement activity, second displacement activity, were different based on different environments. Bang. Okay, perfect answer. D, to give an example. Wow. So, ETS really try to confuse you because wood thrush is used as an example for sure. So if you are not patient, if you did not completely understand, you may jump, but you got to read the rest of the sentence. Okay. So wood thrush is used as an example of an animal that does not display displacement activity. So this is totally wrong. These two activities are displacement activities because what is animal supposed to do if animal did not show displacement activities? Yeah, animal wood thrush is supposed to attack or escape, but instead wood thrush wiped its beak or groomed itself. So both actions are actually displacement activities. But the point here is they showed different types of displacement activities based on different environments. Okay, so D is clearly wrong because wood thrush showed displacement activities, but D said example of animal that does not show displacement activity. So this is wrong. Okay, so this is organization type question in TOEFL listening. Question 5, the answer is C. All right, next question, question 6. The last question, guys. Let's make it good. Let's do this. What does the professor mean when she says this? So we need to listen to short excerpt of the listening passage. So here we go. Listen carefully.
Listen again to part of the lecture, then answer the question.
So, what do you think another example of a displacement activity might be?
How about an animal that, instead of fighting its enemy or running away, it attacks a plant or a bush?
That's a really good suggestion, Carl. But that's called redirecting.
What does the professor mean when she says this?
That's a really good suggestion, Carl. But that's called redirecting.
Okay, so did you get everything? If we revisit our note to help you out, it was from, you don't need to know this. I mean, it's better if you knew, but you don't have to. That's what I'm saying. Okay. It was here, after professor gives her example of displacement activity of a bird. Okay. She asks, is there another example? Okay, to the class. And male students, one male student gave an example, and it wasn't displacement activity, it was redirecting. Remember? Yeah, it came out. The excerpt came out from this part here. Anyway, let me write a little bit more for you. Okay. So if you took down the notes or remember the excerpt completely, it divided like the first part and the second part, right? So first part, it said when the animal have a conflicting drive, right? Right? When instead of enemy, when animal attacks the plant. Okay, isn't this displacement activity? And then professor said, that's really good suggestion, Carl. But that's redirecting. Right? So this was the whole excerpt. Okay, it was played for you first time. And then second time, this part was repeated. Okay. All right. So I guess you have two ways to solve this question. If your English is quite advanced, obviously chances are if you just listen to the second part that it was played again for you, you can still get the right answer. Okay. But this is my original way. Even better way of solving this question is write notes or catch everything when they play this excerpt first time, the both parts, and you can double check that your answer is good. What I mean is, you remember when an animal is in conflict between fight, attack the enemy or run away from the enemy, but when the animal attacks the plant or bush, that's not displacement activity, right? Okay, so you can still get the hint from here, right? It's not displacement activity. And the second part was played. That was good suggestion, Carl, but that's redirecting. So professor is saying, although professor is being very nice and saying, that's a good suggestion, Carl. Okay, professor didn't say, you're wrong. Okay, professor is being very nice, but what professor is saying is that is not displacement activities, right? So you can catch that and get the right answer just by using second part. But if you want to improve your skills and if you want to be more complete and master TOEFL listening, remember the first part that does not play again for you can be used as a big hint as well if you catch the both part. Okay, both parts. Okay. All right. So what does professor mean when she says this part? Good suggestion, Carl, but that's redirecting, right? So that's function question. So function question means a person says this, but what does he or she really mean? Truly mean. Okay, right? We know now, right? Because of but. Let's solve this question. A, she is impressed by how much student knows about redirecting. Definitely not. She's saying that's redirecting. So what she is not saying, that's not displacement activity, to be nice, but that's the message. So she is certainly not like, wow, that's great, Carl. That's so detailed about redirecting. Good job, Carl. No. Okay. That's what A is saying. So pretty funny. B, she thinks it's time to move on to the next part of his lecture, her lecture. Definitely not. Okay. Over inference. Okay. We cannot imply this at all. C, student's answer is not an example of displacement activity. Yeah. Sometimes truth. Okay. Hurts. A little bit cold, but professor saying you are not giving me an example of displacement activity in the nicest way possible by saying that's something else. Okay. D, the student should suggest a different animal behavior to discuss next. I mean, I don't need to even cover this for you, right? I mean, this is the worst answer. I can't even explain what it means based on this question, right? Like totally off topic. Last question, last but not least, question 6, function question. The answer is C. All right, guys, let's review TOEFL listening question types for one last time to help you really understand it. And hopefully you can apply these skills to all the questions, every question you ever face in TOEFL listening, okay, in the future. So there are 7 question types, as you know, and I'm going to review it, help you understand one by one. And these 7 question types apply to both conversation and lecture passages, okay? All right? So question type 1 is G's purpose or G's content. So it's asking for main reason why this listening passage takes place and what is the main topic or main idea of the passage. All right, so it's a little bit different. So G's purpose usually comes out in a conversation passage, more often in conversation passage than the lecture passage, because it's asking like why this listening passage is taking place. What's the reason? So when you have one-on-one conversation, usually there is a reason why this conversation takes place. For example, if it's students with professor, then student might have some questions she wanted to ask. So student visits professor's office, or professor might invited student into his office because he wanted to offer the student a project opportunity, something like that. So that's the purpose of the talk. Okay. And G's content, main topic or main idea, we did it today. Episode 17, question 1, we did. Okay, so main topic for the lecture was talking about displacement activity. So answer was paraphrased. And basically, they were asking for the main topic of the whole passage. Okay, so don't get it wrong. And don't choose overly general or overly specific answer than the main topic or the main idea of the whole passage. Okay, usually comes out in the first paragraph, obviously. Okay, like they're asking for main topic word or thesis statement. Okay, all right. Number 2, detail question. Probably detail question you will face most often in TOEFL listening questions, because it's very similar to factual question in TOEFL reading. So it's basically asking for the right information or true or false. And one tip I told you a couple of times already, one way to test yourself is that if you are able to write down notes that is exactly matching the answers of the detailed questions, then you are doing something really well. Okay. And if your notes are never able to find the answers to the detailed question, then you're doing something wrong, and you need to practice a little bit more. Okay, so just get the right information. All right, need a lot of practice. And 3, connecting contents. We did this in today's lecture, today's class. That was question 2 today. So usually connecting contents, they show you the table or charts, or sometimes put something in right order. Okay, right? So when they use table or chart, it's usually a detailed question in different format. Okay, and sometimes they ask you like put like 4 steps in the right order, and first step, second step, third step, fourth step, and answer could be D, C, A, B. Okay, all right. So that's connecting contents, but more or less, in essence, if you're strong in detailed question, if you understand all the information's right, okay, then you will not have much problems. 4 is organization. This also came out in today's class. This was question 10, wasn't it? Question 5, sorry. We didn't have question 10 today. Question 1 to question 6. I'm sorry. So question 5, and this is very similar to rhetorical purpose question in reading, TOEFL reading, right? So basically, you need to find, why professors say this in the passage. So what is the reason and what is the purpose to put something in the passage, right? Okay, so you need to ask yourself, what is the function? What is the role of this in this passage in order to convey what information? So is it there to explain what professor said? Is it used as an example to justify, exemplify, clarify professor's statement? Is it there to compare and contrast with the previous example? Okay, so it's asking what purpose this word is playing as a tool, used in this passage. Okay, so it's a very similar to rhetorical purpose question. So go back to question 5, explanation, to learn it once again, or go to TOEFL reading lecture and look at rhetorical purpose video, and you can understand both. Or if you understand better in reading, you can try to apply that to TOEFL listening in this question type, and vice versa. If you find it easier to understand when you are solving listening questions, really use that when you do TOEFL reading, thinking that it's almost the same question type. Okay. All right. And function question is, what does the speaker really mean? Okay. So this also came out in today's class, question 6, last question, right? Right. Okay. So you can review that. And the professor said, oh, that's good. Very good suggestion, Carl, but that's redirecting. So what she's trying to say is not really, she's not really interested in saying it's redirecting. She's trying to say that's not an example of displacement behavior, displacement activities, sorry. Okay, so that's a function question. So you really need to understand what the speaker truly mean. And you can look at this question in today's video to review if you're not sure in the future. And attitude, we didn't have that in today's class, but in episode 15, right? In a conversation passage that I went through, right? In episode 14 and 15, it came out in question 4, okay? Question 4. So if you want to review, you can look at that, okay? And it's very close to function question. It's almost the same question type, but rather than finding out what the speaker really means, attitude is based on the information or even the tone of voice, what is the attitude of the speaker rather than what he really means. So, it's almost same question. And, if you look at some books or some teachers even teach this question type as a one type, function and attitude, it's that similar, but, ETS classify as two separate question types. So I'm giving you as a separate question type. So one is looking for what does speaker really mean? And second one, attitude, is by saying that, what kind of attitude we can get from this speaker? Positive, negative, or does he really mean that? Or he's meaning something else? What is his attitude? Okay. But it's very similar to function question. And number 7, inference. Yeah, we have inference question in reading as well. So it's a little bit different from detail question in that the passage or your note taking, no matter how well you have written notes, it's not going to give you direct hint or direct answer. You have to use the information you have written down or listened as evidence to choose the right answer. What is likely conclusion? But it has to be objective. So this given information you choose must give you the answer choice logically. So if 10 people try to solve this question, all 10 of them must be likely to choose that the right answer. Otherwise, it's not going to be objective inference. Okay, so you have to choose objective inference answer, and you must base that on information given. Okay, so you must have that as a base to make this objective conclusion, not subjective. Okay. All right. So that's the inference question. So that's all 7, guys. And inference question, we didn't have question today, but inference question came out from episode 15, question 2. So you can review that if you get the question type wrong in the future, or if you want to, relearn it. Okay, revisit and learn it again. All right. So that's all question type. Okay, guys. So that's it for the how to answer all the questions right for the lecture passage, and once again reviewing all the question types of TOEFL listening. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in my next episode. Thanks for watching, guys.